Hi everybody, Jo Huey here. Today I'm going to talk about coping with the consequences. I have written quite a lot and so I might read out some of it because I think it will be really useful. So I've put down that families are usually petrified of the consequences of not helping the drinker, and often they're just petrified full stop, because there's so much unknown and so much change and chaos that can be caused that it can be really hard to cope and to let things happen so that the drinker then faces those consequences can be really difficult for family members and friends to cope with and to manage themselves. You know, they struggle to, I guess, sit with those difficult feelings of not doing that knee-jerk reaction to save someone and to help them, because, you know, ultimately we don't want to see someone we love being in a, you know, a situation where they're hurting or destroying themselves, and it seems counterproductive to let them do that. But how we react to certain things, you know, in life is you know, varies depending on what the problem is. So I've put down here that it's natural to not want someone you love to struggle, to watch them literally kill themselves. This is more about us feeling like we did everything possible to help that person, and not about whether the person wants the help or would appreciate it. So I think when I've spoken to people, they've always said things like, but I want to know that I've done everything I can to help this person. I want to know that I've, you know, tried every possible option, that I've, you know, and why is that? Why is that we feel that we have to know that we've tried every possible thing to help that person? Is that because we will feel like a bad person if we don't do that? Or we'll feel guilt if we don't do 101 different things to help that person? Are we then making it about us rather than it being about the person? Because ultimately, if that person doesn't want to change and we're just ignoring that, we're not respecting them. So then how can we expect them to respect us? And even if their decisions are not logical and not helpful and all those things, that's really not our call to make. And it is so hard to watch somebody you love to make these decisions. I'm not saying that we should stand by and watch them and not offer support or not offer compassion. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that we need to look at ourselves and the motivators and drivers for us in avoiding consequence. You know, why are we trying to stop these consequences from happening? Is it because we don't believe we can cope once something bad happens, that we won't recover, that it will be too difficult and that we will not be able to manage our own feelings and emotions? I think it's really important to make sure that we understand that, you know, what the other person wants, and not be driven by our need to make sure we've done everything we can. Otherwise we'll feel like a bad person. That's our own stuff. We're doing that to ourselves, because no one's saying we're a bad person if we don't go out and buy a drink for them, or if we don't pick up all their beer cans, or if we don't clean up all their sick, or any other things. No, who's saying that we're bad not doing that? We're saying it, and that's on us. So we have to take responsibility, just like we're expecting the drinker to take responsibility for their behaviour and actions and thoughts and feelings. So when you're taking away those consequences from a drinker, are you doing it for yourself? Is it your own insecurities and need to control and all of those things? And are you listening to what the drinker actually wants? Whether you agree with that or not, which is really difficult, I grant you. But we can't, you know, you wouldn't want to be pushed into something you didn't want to do, would you? Think about it. When has that ever worked? Not in major things like this. If you're addicted to something, it doesn't matter what anyone says. You don't want to let it go until you're ready to let it go. So all those things, like I've mentioned, about clearing up after the drinker and softening the blow with situations and difficulties that arise. Families are very good at that. Also, family members are very good at making excuses as well for the drinker, why they aren't present at social situations, or why they haven't been to work, or family members even ring up work to say, I'm sorry, he can't come in, or she can't come in, or they can't come in. And that's not our job to do. That's for them to deal with. But then what can happen is we're thinking 3 miles down the road, well, if I don't do it, then this could happen and then this could happen. And we catastrophize the situation sometimes, but whatever will be, will be. And we are, as a family, trying to control everything, trying to soften the blow, trying to make everything okay. But it isn't okay, it really isn't. And so we need to stop putting plasters over everything. And I think it stops the drinker from facing their consequences, And I always think about children, You wouldn't continually keep cleaning up after them. They get older, they can do it for themselves, and they're never going to learn to clean up after themselves if you keep doing it for them. So it's a similar situation. What else have I got? Oh yeah, so things like if they've passed out on the floor or in a chair wherever they fell. I know it must be really hard, the concept of this, but you have to leave them where they're at. Because if this was a person that was living on their own, that's exactly what would happen. They'd have to face those consequences because nobody else would be there to look after them and make everything better. Now, what I would say is cover them with a blanket, put a pillow over their head, over their head. Did I just say that? Oh my God, that's a Freudian slip, isn't it? I think I'll leave that in. Under their head. Make sure they're comfortable in that regard. You have shown your compassion, you've shown your support. They will wake up knowing that because they'll still be where they were left. Also, things like empty bottles is another obvious one that families tend to clear it all up, put it all away. But again, that doesn't allow the person to see how much they've been drinking. I'm not saying that would definitely make any difference, but why should you be cleaning up after them? If you've cooked them a dinner and they haven't turned up, just leave it on the side and then it's for them to deal with. Most of the time, if somebody is a heavy drinker, they probably won't want to eat that much anyway. And so, it's probably not a priority to them. I think that's probably most of the stuff. Yeah, I think that I've written down here that family members can also interpret their inaction as not caring. So by you not doing something, you think you're not caring, and thinking that you're a bad person. Sometimes inaction is caring too. I know it doesn't feel natural or compassionate. No one is saying to be cut off or unkind. This is about having boundaries, knowing what is and what isn't your responsibility. Obviously, parents have a responsibility until their child grows up. I understand that. But it's, these boundaries that I've talked about lots of times are really important, not only to keep you safe, but so that other people know what you're prepared to put up with and what you're not. Showing your loved one that you are understanding of their situation, that you are compassionate to the situation that they're in, and you'll support them is what they need the most. That's what works. That is what will make a difference to this person, making them feel heard, making them feel supported. You could say they're acting out by using alcohol, just like kids act out in all sorts of ways. And who are we to judge them for their choice in coping? Obviously, it's important to hold back any judgments that you've got and any manipulation that you might want to use or emotional blackmail, because, again, that doesn't really work. So I guess we've all got our struggles, and families struggle to keep in their lane, as the saying goes, and we need to make sure that we're dealing with our own stuff and what we're struggling with in the situation of dealing with a drinker. And you know, you might not live with a drinker anymore, but they might still be in your life. And so putting those boundaries in place and making sure that that person knows you're there if they want help and support, but not to call you after certain hours, or not to see you, you know, you don't want to see them drunk, or, you know, you choose what's appropriate for you. But I think that in terms of consequences, there are many consequences to the family and friends' actions as there are to the drinkers. So hopefully you found that helpful, and I'll be doing some more videos around some common questions that I get asked. So if you'd like to subscribe to my channel, then you'll get all the videos as and when they become live, and then feel free to share them on your social media, of course, because you never know who may benefit. People that are struggling are out there, and you're not necessarily going to know who they are. So take care, and I'm here if you need me. So feel free to get in touch.